Sorry, I wrote down.
It's just what you can say about assessing the transfer portal with over 15 players leaving, just here on signing day, just kind of the state of the program and how you're looking at everything right now to fill out some of those spots.
Well, I think the big thing with the transfer portal is I went through a long deal last time, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I think you guys know how I feel about it. But there's 4 stages of process to reloading your football team. You have the signing date, which is happening today, which I hope we get a chance to talk about. You have a transfer portal, and then you have the signing date on the February first Wednesday, okay, in February, and then you have the transfer portal after spring ball, and then it locks up and your team is locked in.
Coach, can you tell us about your punter, who's I think a surprise to most of us? How did you guys find him and discover him, and what was that process like?
It was a recruiting process, and after evaluating what was going on during the season, we felt that we needed to add another scholarship punter. First thing we did is let our punter here know that we were going to recruit another scholarship punter, and then we went out there and did our process and came up with Maximilian out in Australia.
Mark and then Dean.
I have a couple questions, but I want to stay on the punter for a second. It says he has a cousin that went to Syracuse. Do we know who this was? He an athlete?
Not an athlete.
Oh, not an athlete. Has he played American football or just Australian rules?
They have a form of American football there, but I don't know if you would call it American football as we know it.
Okay, and I mean, is there just any concern that you'll be able to learn what you needed to learn to be able to play this?
We've seen enough video to feel confident to give him an athletic scholarship here at Syracuse.
Coach, the in-home visits that you did go on, what did you feel was important, and then why to see those players and those families? How is that important?
I think when you go into a player's home, you get to know the mom, the dad, the brothers and sisters, and you know the environment that it comes from. I think it helps you in how you help to develop him and how you relate to him while he's here at Syracuse.
Right.
Coach, every signee was a team captain. Is that like a prerequisite for a player to come here, or is it just something that you consider important?
No, it's just something that's on the characteristic things that you look for. Normally captains have leadership qualities. They have the ability to tell people the truth, and they have a huge will to win. And throw in, they're usually extremely unselfish.
The 11 number, can you just kind of comment on that in terms of just why you arrived there? Does that factor in the transfer portal, or just kind of the way it worked this time around?
No, I think that we tried to go after certain positions. We felt comfortable with that number, and I think it gives us enough breathing room in the back end to continue to grow this class.
We'll go back to Dan in front and then Mark again.
Coach, recruiting the Northeast, 2 guys from New Jersey, 1 from New York, 1 from Maryland. Just your importance of maybe that 5-hour radius and just what you can say about who you brought in.
I think the biggest thing is when you bring in the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of New Jersey, I think once again, we've always talked about that we want to spiral graph from Syracuse out. We want to get guys as close as we can to us. But it's really important that the people that we recruit, not only in the state of New York and New Jersey and other neighboring states, they have an opportunity to play. When I came here, we had a bunch of guys that were on our football team, but they didn't participate in the games, even though they were local. I want to recruit local guys that have an opportunity to show up and be some of the leaders and stars on this football team. So we want the best players that we can get from as many close states as we can, preferably New York, New Jersey, states that are close and bordering us. Okay?
Mark and then John.
Coach, it used to be this was, like February was the big day where you got everybody in and we all knew who you're getting. So now we have these 12 guys here. How much work is there left to do, would you say? Is this a drop in the bucket? Is this a good start? What would you say?
I'd say we're halfway done. We're halfway done, and only half the work is done. We've got a lot more work to do. And I appreciate the work that these coaches have done in this back room. I appreciate them very much. Recruiting has never changed from the beginning. Even though the rules have changed, recruiting's never changed. For us to be able to bring 12 athletes like this into Syracuse, that means they've spent a lot of time away from their families, okay? Especially when the COVID rules changed and you're back in airports, you're back in airplanes, you're all over the country. meeting hands, talking to people, home visits, school visits, and back in the game of getting these young people and taking Syracuse to them wherever they're at and giving them an opportunity to come and visit and maybe inking the paper and saying yes to Syracuse. So there's a lot of time, a lot of money invested in this, and hopefully it'll pay off.
How much is that exacerbated by the fact that you're down a few assistant coaches? That makes it even.
When it comes to this class was basically locked in before the season was over. Okay, so I don't think that had any effect at all.
John and Roshan?
Coach, when you're recruiting, when you go to players' homes and whatnot, what's the big pitch? How do you get them to come here?
Most of them already want to come here. But again, you guys, we've got something that's special. We've got something that's extremely unique. I mean, this education is no joke. It really is. And I think that these players come here for the education. I think they come here for the dome experience. They see the crowds. They know that the community and the student body is involved. And I think they like some of the coaches in the room as well.
Do you make your way out to any local games here in Central New York at all?
You know what? I did not get out to a local game this year, which was disappointing, but I have visited local coaches.
Coach, is Sean Tucker going to be back next year, and how does that factor into recruiting if it does go?
Yeah, Sean's going to be back here.
And then, I guess a little bit separate from that, obviously you had a number of players enter the transfer portal, some of whom were playing good minutes. I know you don't like to speak about individuals, but as a whole, can you speak to why some of those guys decided to left or leave, or why they were maybe unhappy?
This is what I'll speak to. Out of 22 starters, 17 of our starters are here with us right now. Out of the 5 they're not, 4 of them they expired all their eligibility. They stayed here as long as they could possibly stay here based off of NC2A rules. So technically we only lost 1 starter. I think that the guys that are playing football here really enjoy playing football here. I think that half of those guys in the portal had their Syracuse degrees. They have their degrees already. When a young man comes here and goes to school and gets a Syracuse degree, they're entitled to do whatever they would like to do for the rest of their lives. And then for the other 7 guys, you can figure it out.
Brent and then Mark again?
Coach, I was wondering if you could just give us an update on your offensive coordinator search, and in addition to that, kind of what kind of coordinator you're looking for.
We're looking for a coordinator that can score points, and we're going to be going through our process, where it's a process that we don't want to rush. When we get the right person, we will let you guys know as fast as possible.
Mark and then Dan in front of you?
Coach, you said you're about halfway there. Do you have an idea of how many of the next crop or group will come from the transfer portal, and how many will be true freshmen?
That group is so, first of all, you have to make sure they're the right person. You have to make sure they're good enough, and you got to make sure it's the right fit. So I don't think you can just say, we can take this many people from that area, from that piece of the pie, without knowing what's going to be in there yet. So it's a very fluid situation, and you have to kind of flow with it a little bit.
Dan and then Nate?
Dino, seeing the players going out in the transfer portal, how active are you going to be to kind of respond to that in the transfer portal? Does that become a huge part of what you're looking for as you're halfway there? And just how aggressive are you going to be there?
I'm a little confused, Dan, on the question. Hit me with it one more time.
The transfer portal, with the players going out, are you going to kind of respond in being active yourself and being aggressive within the portal to bring people in? And how much are you going to use that in the recruiting process?
It depends on the position. If you have enough age at the position, then you don't necessarily have to replace a transfer portal guy with a transfer portal guy. And that's where the high school recruiting is extremely important. You make sure that you're picking the right pieces there. If you get a position group that's really, really young and you don't have some major players that have played at a young age, then you may look for a little bit older guy to give you some experience back there.
And then as far as the message, getting back into houses, just how important that face-to-face is for you to sell Syracuse, and just how much that means to you, and the difference of shaking a hand as opposed to virtual?
Oh, I think it means a lot. I think we are much better back in the homes. Now, from a financial standpoint, some people may think that Zoom was the way to go, but we're best when we're in front of people and we're shaking warm hands and looking them in the eye and telling them exactly what this university has to offer.
Nate?
I guess just given all the entire offseason. I mean, you lost a significant amount of your depth via transfer. Does this, you traditionally like to hit a lot in the spring. Is spring ball going to look a whole lot different now, given the fact that your roster is fluid from now until August?
I think it's going to be like that everywhere, and I think you've once again you've touched on something that'll be very interesting that I can't talk about because we're not there yet. But I would imagine that it will have an effect.
Got time for a few more. We will start with Brent.
Coach, what were the conversations like with recruits per the modern era that Nate brought up? Name, image, and likeness, the transfer portal itself, doing with recruits. What kind of questions were you getting about those?
Now, I was getting no questions about the transfer portal in everybody's home, and very seldom did name, image, and likeness came up. But when it comes up to name, image, and likeness, I think once again, everybody that's done exciting things here on the football field to get noticed has been rewarded with name, image, and likeness.
Dean?
Coach, it's different from player to player, but how is that pitch different from somebody in the transfer portal that may be transferring here versus a high school recruit? As far as, is it like an immediate playing time with the transfer portal kid, or is it like a developmental thing with a high school recruit?
You know, I think obviously when you get high school kids, you expect them to develop. Very seldom are you get guys, the Kalins, the Ciscos against the Trills, the Iffies, even the Mikhail Jones, where they come in and they can just play right away. It normally takes a little bit of time. The transfer portal guy has already gone through a recruiting experience. What normally happens with those guys is they're looking for something totally different. All they want to know is what's position, let me look at my position guys, do I have an opportunity to play? If you're talking about half the guys in the portal from this university, they already have their degree. They can't get a better degree where they're going. So they're going for playing time. They're going to experience playing on the football field, 98% of them for the last time that they're ever going to play, with 2% somewhere around there going to the National Football League. So I just think they're looking for different things. The big thing you need to always remember with transfer portals is high school students always have an opportunity to go to the transfer portal. Transfer portal people, once they come out of the transfer portal, you're only allowed to do that once without losing years. So they're very, very detailed in what they're looking for, and they're usually very, very committal once they decide they're going somewhere.
Last two, we'll start with Mark and then Roshan.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about LaQuint Allen? Just looking at his accolades, he seems like at least kind of a star.
I couldn't hear you what you said at first.
LaQuint Allen seems to be, just from looking at what we're given here, kind of the gem so far. Can you talk a little bit about him, and is he good enough to be able to see the field next year, Ian Tucker?
You know, I love LaQuint. I love him as a person. I love his family. Can he be another Sean Tucker? When we recruited Sean Tucker, we didn't think Sean Tucker was a LaQuint. You know, we just thought he was another three-star guy that blah, blah, that we got stuck with, and we've got the worst recruiting class in the ACC. So LaQuint he's coming out with a lot more stars and juice, and we think he's good, but he's still got to come in and prove it, at a collegiate level. We think he's good, but we thought Sean was good too, even though some other people didn't.
Last question to Roshan in front.
Coach, you hired a new special teams coordinator. What are your expectations for the special teams unit moving forward?
I expect us to be better. We were not on the top of our game last year, and it was something that needed to be corrected immediately. And I think we handled that. I think Bob Ligashevsky is a fantastic coach. I think his resume speaks for itself, but his resume doesn't tell you what kind of man he is. He doesn't tell you how he handles players. And there's one thing to be a coach that can X and O on a chalkboard, but good coaches, really good coaches, do it on the grass. And you haven't seen anything until you see him on the grass. He has a link with players. It's not what he knows, it's what he can get the players to know. And he's traditionally done a fantastic job with that. Okay?
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.